Sleep deprivation is a very underrated issue in America today. Did you know, according to Sleep Score Labs, that about 30% of Americans get only 6 hours of sleep or less per night? Hi, I'm Austin Dubnik, and today I want to talk to you guys about sleep deprivation in America. So today, I'm going to start off with some startling statistics. I'm going to then talk about how we got to this point, mention some signs and effects, discuss a small story about a woman who struggled with sleep deprivation, and then I'll offer some tips for prevention and some solutions that are recommended by the CDC. I'm going to start off with Americans are not getting enough sleep nowadays. It's pretty clear. The National Sleep Foundation, as referenced by helpguide.org, says that everybody, regardless of age, should be getting at least 7+ hours of sleep per night. But that's not the case. High schoolers are struggling. They're only about 31% are getting at least 8 hours of sleep per night, and they're in the age range they really should get more than 7 hours, should get at least 8. Also, according to a 2013 Gallup poll, according to startsleeping.org, people nowadays on average are sleeping an hour less than they did back in 1942. So now that we've talked about the fact that they're not getting enough sleep, I want to talk about why they're not getting enough sleep. So first of all, they have strange schedules. During the weekdays, they're very busy. There's so much going on. People have jobs, people are going to school, and they don't have enough time to do what they need to do. And they stay up late getting things done that have to be done. And then when they get to the weekend, instead of catching up on sleep, they're kind of pressured by friends, family, maybe to hang out a little more, maybe to go out and party and socialize. And so they're never really having an opportunity to catch up on sleep and get some much needed sleep. They're also affected by their use of technology. And this is mainly in the 18 to 24-year-old age range, but it affects everyone. People nowadays are always on their smartphones, tablets, TVs. They're either playing games, on social media, and I know a lot of people like to binge watch TV shows. It may start with a couple of episodes, and the next thing you know, someone's knocked out a whole season. And so these are all things that prevent people from going to sleep when they really should. These are distractions that happen a lot with people, and it's a big reason why they don't get enough sleep. Some signs and effects now. I'm going to move on to this area now that I've discussed the fact that they're not getting enough sleep and why they're not. I'm going to talk about some signs and effects. First of all, if people are falling asleep in meetings, they're sleepy during meetings, lectures, warm rooms, at school especially is a good example. They might be struggling. If they're sluggish in the afternoon, that's another way. You can tell if you're drowsy after eating, if you're drowsy while on long drive, or just when driving, or if you've had a long meal, if you're drowsy after you've had a big meal, or you're drowsy while you're driving, those are reasons or signs that you could be struggling with sleep deprivation. And then if you fall asleep in the evening while you're relaxing or while you're watching TV, or while you're just trying to wind down and you can't seem to stay awake, that's another way you can tell. As for some effects of sleep deprivation, a weakened immune system is one, and that's really troubling because if you get sick, and I know no one wants to be sick, but if you do, you want your body to have a strong immune system and to be able to fight that and get you back out there doing what you want to do. There's also premature skin aging is one sign, one effect that can happen, which is never a good thing for anyone. And then also impaired brain activity. So this is like your inability to cope with stress, problems with learning and concentrating, and also memory problems are all associated with sleep deprivation, which can be especially troubling for college kids and for people in general who are trying to learn things and get better in life. Now that I've talked about some signs and effects, I want to move on to that story I mentioned. This is according to Kate Gardner on self.com. She was the one who had to deal with this. This is something that I want to tell you first of all, that this has been building up for a couple of weeks. She'd been struggling to get sleep. She'd been really busy, and this really kind of built up on her over a couple of weeks. It was kind of cumulative. She had 3 different hallucinations when she went to school one day. And the first thing was she was sitting in class, and all of a sudden she was having trouble. Her legs started itching terribly, and she started to panic. So she went out into the hallway, and she walked it off, and it went away. And she was like, okay, good, it's gone. And so she went back into class. But then she was watching her professor lecture, and all of a sudden her professor's hair just started growing like super fast in mere seconds, all the way down to her waist. And so she was like stunned. The rest of the class was just sitting there, kind of just calm, relaxed, taking notes, because nothing was happening to them. It was only happening to her. And then the last hallucination she had was that she actually imagined that her teacher had been stabbed. A man had walked into the classroom and stabbed her teacher, and she was stunned. But once again, everybody in the class was calm because it wasn't actually happening. It was only in her mind. Now, I don't want to scare you guys. This is more of a rarity, but it does show that sleep deprivation can be a very harmful thing if you allow it to build up and accumulate over time. As I begin to finish up, I just want to talk about some tips to prevention. Of course, you want to get regular exercise, not only just for yourself to have a good, healthy life, but also it helps with sleep. If you get regular exercise, you're going to be tired, you're going to be able to fall asleep better. Also, eating right's important. Having a regular sleep schedule is good. Your body has a natural clock. If you're going to bed at a consistent time every night, that helps a lot. And also having a relaxing bedtime routine is a big thing too. So you want to make sure that you kind of maybe dim the lights, kind of read a book, just kind of wind down and let yourself fall asleep naturally. That's always a good thing. And then for those CDC recommendations that I mentioned for solutions for sleep deprivation, they offer a few that they would like to see happen. First of all, they want to see school start later. They want children to be able to wake up a little later in the morning, not be able to have to go to school so early. They also want stronger regulations on work hours. They don't want people working so late, overtime and whatnot. They want people to get home and get to bed at a better time. And then also, they don't want daylight savings time anymore, which I would do, because daylight savings time is like right now when it gets darker later, but they want it to get darker earlier so that people will start to wind down for the day and get to bed at a better time more consistently. To finish up, in conclusion, as I mentioned, I talked a pretty good amount today. I've mentioned some starting statistics about where we are today in this regard. I've also mentioned how we got to this point with sleep deprivation, those signs and effects I talked about, as well as that story that I mentioned that I hope gives you guys some insight. And then also I mentioned those tips of prevention and those solutions that I just finished up talking about. So in conclusion, take your sleeping habits seriously. I don't want to be persuasive here. This is an informative speech. I'm trying to be informative. Take your sleeping habits seriously, because they are truly as important as drinking water and eating healthy. So hope you guys learned a lot today. Thank you.